Hey guys, welcome back to Unfiltered American Media. Caroline here, great to see you. Let's dive right in.
So CNBC just absolutely humiliated Hakeem Jeffries after another one of his shutdown lies completely backfired in his face. Honestly, if he would just stop lying, maybe he'd actually make some headway. But anyways, we're approaching a pretty significant milestone, the longest government shutdown in history. I hate it. It's super annoying and frustrating, but yeah, longest one ever. Both parties are not budging. And now, if you're a conservative, this is good news. Democrats, not so much. The pressure is really starting to build on Democrats in particular, and even the fake news media is starting to get skeptical about this ongoing shutdown. And Hakeem Jeffries is seriously struggling to explain his decision to keep the government shut down. Let's get into it.
Roll call recently that was pretty interesting on this. It said what you are asking the Republicans to do right now when they control the White House, the Senate, and the House is effectively what the Democrats could not do when they controlled all three of those heads of government themselves. The 10-year setup for this, for these, or the 3-year setup for the expiration of these credits was intentionally put in. It was put in when you controlled the White House, the House, and the Senate. You couldn't get it passed for longer. And so this is a setup that kind of your own creation that you all couldn't extend beyond that. Now you want the Republicans to do something you didn't do when you were in power?
It's not a setup beyond what we could do. We extended the Affordable Care Act tax credits in 2022 for 3 years. The program is working. It's providing health care to tens of millions of people in an affordable way, and it should be continued. It's interesting to us that Republicans decided that they would prefer to permanently extend massive tax breaks for their billionaire donors in their one big ugly bill, which also at the same time dramatically increased the debt and enacted the largest cut to Medicaid in American history, but refused to consider extending Affordable Care Act tax credits that actually benefit working class Americans, everyday Americans, and middle class Americans. Their priorities are misplaced, and as Democrats, we're going to continue to fight for the American people all across the country, in rural America, urban America, small town America, the heartland of America, and of course, black and brown communities throughout America, all of whom are being devastated by this Republican healthcare crisis.
CNBC is calling out Hakeem Jeffries and the Democrats for causing the expiration of Obamacare subsidies and bringing this on themselves. The Democrats voted when they had control of Congress to extend these subsidies until December 2025. Here we are now, approaching that deadline. Republicans have control of Congress, but the Democrats aren't satisfied with their own deadline. Now they're demanding Republicans extend the subsidies for a broken Obamacare system, or else, because they always love ultimatums, they'll keep the government shut down indefinitely. They'd literally rather watch the federal government descend into complete chaos. This is just unbelievable. This is just more insane, radical thinking from the Democrats, and it's completely backfiring. Chuck Schumer and Hakeem Jeffries are now being challenged by news anchors on every channel, trying to explain why they're doing this. And here's the secret sauce. Democrats don't want you to know the healthcare subsidies haven't even expired yet. I've said it many times, but it's worth repeating. They're not going to expire until New Year's Day 2026. So all of this is an effort to satisfy the radical, wacko wing of the Democratic Party with the hopes that AOC and Bernie Sanders will allow Hakeem Jeffries and Chuck Schumer to remain in power. They'll be the figureheads. They'll get their amazing government health care and their massive salaries. As long as they still have the optics of looking in charge, they'll be fine. Just go along with the plan. Now, President Trump and congressional Republicans have fortunately decided not to cave in, which is a great choice because it prevents Democrats and Democratic leadership from getting their scam through Congress. They want a dirty spending package that inflates the national debt even more. Republicans want a clean resolution bill that keeps spending limits at the bare minimum while they work on actually improving things.
His concern with this was that the ACA subsidies aren't helping bring costs down overall. He said that in his state, Oklahoma, if you look over 6 years from 2013 to 2019, premiums for ACA plans were up by 200% versus premiums being up by 29% for commercial plans in his state. His concern is that there's something that needs to be fixed within this. Some of the things he threw out would be things like limiting fraud by just requiring that there be at least a $20 premium or some premium that's put down instead of zero premium so that people get enrolled in things without even knowing that they're enrolled in some of these programs. What do you say to that?
We've made clear in the House that we will consider anything that emerges from the Senate in good faith in a bipartisan way that both reopens the government while at the same time addresses this health care crisis and extends the Affordable Care Act tax credits in a meaningful way. The 90% or so of the people who benefit from these Affordable Care Act tax credits make $63,000 per year or less. And a significant number of small businesses and entrepreneurs across the country rely upon the Affordable Care Act tax credits in order to provide health insurance for themselves and for their families. So this is an issue that needs to be addressed. In fact, we know that red state residents actually are disproportionately higher represented in terms of the Affordable Care Act tax credits than any other part of the country. And so we're fighting for the American people here, and hopefully we can find a bipartisan path forward.
It's such a complex issue, leader. And what we're seeing now with the shutdown, some real effects starting to happen, I guess. And that's where people just separate out all the points that you're making right now about what's wrong with the healthcare system and when and how you fix it. And when you're able to have those discussions and those negotiations. And maybe it shouldn't be done, by shutting using leverage, which shuts the government down, where you don't really have time to do it effectively. This is what Senator Langford, just talking about history, this is what he said when Republicans were going to do it about Obamacare.
Well, in 2013, as folks recall, Republicans were mad about Obamacare. We were pretty clear about it, and we had a big government shutdown. It was shorter than this one. And Democrats at that time said, we will not negotiate on health care while the government is closed. Well, now it's literally the opposite on it. That we're saying we're not going to negotiate on healthcare. Healthcare is incredibly complicated. You can't do it while people are not getting SNAP benefits, people are not getting paid, air traffic controllers aren't getting paid. Well, you can't sit there and say, we'll do this little tweak and that's going to be enough. It's not enough. So let's actually have a real conversation about all these issues, but not while there's a shutdown.
Jeffries keeps hammering the media with the same bogus narrative he's been selling since day one. He's acting like Obamacare subsidies are the magic solution to fix our entire healthcare system. But these subsidies are just being used to artificially reduce healthcare premiums that would otherwise cost people over $1,000 a month. That's how disastrous Obamacare actually is as a healthcare program. It's so broken that it needs Congress to prop it up with hundreds of billions of dollars in subsidies just to function. Nice work, Obama. Hakeem Jeffries is digging in his heels. What else would he do? Admit he screwed up and actually do his job? Obviously not. He's committed to keeping the government closed, and he won't budge until Republicans cave and give him his entire radical agenda along with those Obamacare subsidies. He's willing to hold the whole country hostage for as long as it takes. So let's check out what else he's been saying.
Than anybody feels comfortable with. The problem is inflation is often caused by government spending. Additional government spending is not likely to get it to the point where we are going to see less inflation out there. How do you handle that?
This is not additional government spending.
It is additional government spending. You're looking for another $350 billion of additional government spending over the next 10 years?
We're actually extending a tax credit that currently exists. And what's interesting is that in then one big ugly bill where Republicans raised the debt ceiling by about over $4 trillion, exploded the deficit and the debt, but then they used a policy framework called current policy baseline. which is to say that if you just extend current policy, it has no fiscal impact. So the question is, why
I'm not a big fan of how any of you all use numbers in the government.
So the question is, why are Republicans willing to use that approach when it comes to massive tax breaks?
Like I said, I'm not a big fan with how any of the government, I'm not a big fan of how any elected officials tend to use figures to tell us what we want to hear with some of these things. Additional government spending, though, is going to mean worse numbers when it comes to inflation. Is there a way to get everybody together and try and find ways to fix the base problems with health care and try and make sure that people are being given the help that they need along the way? It seems like it's a really tough thing to do when the government's been shut for 24 days, that is not a great situation, that we're asking other people to bear the pain.
We have a broken healthcare system, and it obviously needs to be fixed in a decisive way. But there are steps that should be taken right now with respect to the reality that tens of millions of Americans are receiving notices as we speak, indicating that their healthcare premiums are about to skyrocket in ways that will bankrupt them or deprive them of the ability to go see a doctor when they need one, when their children or when their families need one. This is not an artificially made up thing. November 1st, open enrollment begins. The notice.
There you go. Jeffries is out there claiming Republicans are trying to rip healthcare away from millions of Americans, which is another completely misleading talking point. What Republicans are actually trying to do is bring real reform and competition back into the healthcare market, something Obamacare completely destroyed. Look, before that law even passed, Americans could actually shop around for affordable insurance plans that fit their specific needs. It was actually kind of nice. Now, the only way to afford healthcare is either getting private insurance through an employer or relying on healthcare subsidies Democrats created while they were in power. It's not exactly a healthy system, and it's not a good way to be burning through so much money. Republicans want genuine reforms, which is a good thing. Meanwhile, this CNBC anchor is pushing back on Hakeem Jeffries, and he's responding with cherry-pick statistics, trying to convince people he's right and make himself look good. I mean, that's what politicians do. Cherry-pick data, skip the full context, avoid the background, and never give a legitimate, fully fleshed-out answer. This situation isn't getting resolved while the government stays shut down. In fact, Hakeem Jeffries' decision to keep the government closed is only causing more pain for the American people, especially within the federal government. I saw this video shoot. It might have been earlier this morning or late last night. I could be wrong, but some billionaire has already pledged like $150 million that's going toward the military, which is awesome. But it's also kind of sad that private citizens have to step up and give money to the federal government. It's a mixed emotion, you know? Like, oh, that's really patriotic and generous, but also, seriously, we can't even pay our own military? Pretty disgraceful. Right now, the American people know what's going on. They trust Trump. They trust what he's doing because he's had a proven track record of success. Democrats keep voting against reopening the government. President Trump and congressional Republicans are finding ways to be productive and actually serve the American public, which is great. Like I mentioned earlier, Trump secured like $150, $160 million that's going to be allocated to the military. So nice of him. He brought it up in a press conference earlier this morning, I think. So good on Trump, but also seriously, we can't even pay our military? That's disgraceful. That's my take. Let me know what you think in the comments. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and share your thoughts. I do read them all. Thank you so much for watching Unfiltered America Media. I'm Caroline, your host. Stay strong, stay free, and I'll see you in the next one. Take care, everyone.